Hi, welcome. This is the Creativity Show. I'm Clare Cooley. Thanks for being here. Today we're going to do something a little different. I What I love about creativity is we're always learning, expanding, growing, trying new things, which is fun and informative, inspirational. Um, so today I am going to continue this that I started yesterday, which Bodhi could show that uh, in a close up. This is a T-shirt that um, had some stains on it, so I felt free to cover the stains with the stenciling. And what I'm doing different than I've done before is take the stencils to the next level, which means that I'm composing a piece of art to wear. Instead of just a simple one color stencil design, you could show this that I'm wearing and the jewelry that I made, close ups. Instead of just the one or two color, which I often do, I'm now going to do a composition, and I'm going to use my own art, the warbler art that I'm going to use for basically the color and composition. The stencil has been cut, but I'm going to do a lot of hand work and show you that process while we listen to the pre-recorded audiobook. So we can go there. And I'm going to do it on this jacket.
Let me just press record for the overhead camera and the other
Okay.
camera.
And there's something right in the middle of the screen there.
That's annoying. Emojis for no reason.
Okay, were they showing to the audience or just me?
Just you.
Okay, so this is the outfit I'm going to, on this jacket, work on adding this warbler. Bo, would you name that warbler?
Let me check that. So you said the one that you're going to be using today?
This
That is
one, yeah.
the Tennessee Warbler and Ivy Leaf Morning Glory.
So that's what we're going to put on to this fancy jacket. I like showing casual to functional to fancy. So today we're going to work on a fancy, and I love this lavender and cream combination. So that's why I picked this particular warbler and wildflower. So the first thing I'll show you before we get started and listening to an audio story at the same time is I have the big, is this overhead? Yes. Camera on. So I have the big flower and I have a smaller version. Actually, just turn the other. And I have a larger warbler. So I'm going to use these three different stencils and create, inspired by, based on that original drawing I did, but it will be its own composition, which is part of the thing that's so fun about art and using these stencils. While I set up, you want to tell people about the stencils?
Yeah, so you can find her stencils on patreon.com/Clare Cooley. I'm putting up the QR code and the link right here. And all of her stencils are going up onto her Patreon as downloadable digital files. scalable vector graphics files, which you can download and print them out or cut them out any size using a stencil cutter or a laser cutter or a printer even. And these are great for all different types of stencil and design uses. The designs are $3 a pop on her Patreon if you purchase using a computer, or like $4.50 if you use your iPhone. If you purchase through the app. But if you become a member for just $5 a month with no commitment, then you get all of her stencil designs for free included in that price. And she keeps putting out more stencil designs regularly. And that again is patreon.com/Clare Cooley. It's a great way to support her work and these live streams.
And as Bodhi said, there'll be 18 flowers very soon on Patreon, which any Patreon member gets all of for no additional fee, or purchase any one or number you'd like. And then the Warblers and Wildflower series. There's 26 warblers and wildflowers in my, I did 26 original drawings. So they'll all be added one at a time to the collection that the Patreon members get for no extra fee. So today's the first warbler I am going to be doing in front of the camera. So we're about to go, and we're going to be hearing a very special story today called Bodhi is Born, which you probably can figure out what that story's about. And we're going to cue that up.
All right, you want me to get that started?
Sure.
All right, we will start that story in 1 sec.
I'm going to mix some color here while you're doing that.
Bodhi is born. If I wished to get pregnant, I would have to take hormones, gain weight, and stop dancing, the doctors said. I decided to leave it up to the wisdom of my body and go on a retreat in Mexico. The place that had been empty since parting with my newborn could now be filled after finding my first son and telling him I arranged his adoption because I loved him, not because I didn't. When I saw a big, beautiful pregnant woman on the beach, I felt my fertility return. I celebrated by going for a long swim after the locals assured me the waters were safe. I swam for an hour in the bay over to the next beach, La Ropa, and back. I had a habit of trying to pick up my pace during the swim back to see how fast I could go. As I walked out of the ocean totally spent, I had an odd feeling that made me look back at the water. Under the waves, I saw a huge, dark shape that I could not make out. The fisherman who was standing waist-high in the water close to where I came ashore suddenly jumped out of the ocean and yelled something in Spanish to the two men in a small fishing boat just past the breakers. They grabbed a gaffing hook and stuck it in the water and pulled something out that immediately shook loose and disappeared. I did not have any idea what it was, and the fisherman on the shore disappeared before I could ask him, and the two in the boat motored off as quickly. I wondered if, in this tourist economy, they had done something they didn't want to speak of. The next morning, on a break of dawn walk, I saw a 12-foot crocodile with a gash under its lower jaw dead on the beach. The locals cleared it off within minutes of sunrise. I had no idea crocodiles could live in salt water. If I had seen it while I was in the water, swimming in the bay from one beach to the other, I don't know if I would have been able to maintain my composure and not panic and swallow water. Standing in a sad sort of shock, looking at the mortally wounded creature, I wondered how long it had been following me. Why didn't it eat me? I asked a man who said he lived in Florida, where there are lots of salties. He answered, "Don't worry, crocs prefer dead meat. I've seen them take a cow off the shore, kill it, and leave it there, and come back to eat it later." I snapped, "Oh, that is comforting. So I shouldn't worry because it would have only killed me, not eaten me, but then left me there for my young nephew to find my torn-up body." I stomped away, deciding losing my enjoyable swim in the bay was better than losing my life to a crocodile, whether it wanted to eat me now or later. Returning home, I went to the doctor, who confirmed I was pregnant. It was great news. Since I had been parenting my older sister's boys on and off since I was 17, I did not think I wanted to raise another, but it filled me with joy. To be able to leave the hospital with him instead of alone was so healing. To start at the beginning with the baby instead of trying to repair the damage caused by someone else's abuse and neglect felt like a sublime gift. At 7 months pregnant, my son's father suggested the name Bodhi, the name of a ghost town in the Sierras. I said it out loud, and my baby jumped inside of me as if recognizing his name. I like to find something to honor in each spiritual tradition, and the Jewish custom of naming a child after the first initial of a loved one felt right. Barbara, my beloved mother, and Bodhi, my beautiful son. I said it, and again he jumped, and it felt like he recognized his name. I spelled Bodhi after the tree, not the ghost town. Later, I heard that Buddha reached enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. I checked into the hospital the night before my early morning cesarean. A nurse washed a different newborn baby outside my room every hour all night long without closing the door to my room. Every squealing infant woke me. I was not allowed to eat or drink anything since checking into the hospital. Cesareans are rated at the same level of trauma as open-heart surgery, but since women have them as part of motherhood, they are given little consideration. When they brought me into the surgery room that was 45 degrees to prevent bacteria from growing, it took everything I had not to shiver while bending forward as the anesthetic needle was inserted into my spine. The drug allowed me to be lucid, so I could be there for the birth of my son. Feeling everything but not registering it as pain was strange, but I was conscious, which was important to me. He was taken from my womb and to a table where they checked him, saying he was fine. The doctor, assistant, and his father were gushing about how beautiful he was. I said, "Can I see him?" My arms were tied down to prevent me from moving while they were performing the surgery, so I could only nuzzle him with my face. When I said his name, he opened his eyes. Before going into the hospital, I felt I needed to be prepared, so I did something I had never done before. I assigned different answers to playing cards. I shuffled them and asked specific questions about the next few days. The answers revealed my son would appear to have trouble that would pass in 3 days. So when they told me he had moisture in his lungs, which could be pneumonia, I felt sure it was not. But in an abundance of caution, I let them take him to the nursery to be safe. Being separated from him was excruciating. We had been in the same body for 9 months, feeling every movement the other made, always in contact, and in essence, moving as one. First, they took me to the recovery room. It was very surreal because I could not think about my legs. It was as if I was not connected to them. Slowly, I was able to sense them and move them again, and they took me back to my room. I had never been so tired, and I wanted, but I could not without seeing my son. In my life have I ever gotten hysterical, but I felt it was possible now, which I told my son's father. He was looking at his phone messages and offered no comforting words. Perhaps he did not take me seriously because he had never seen me lose my composure. I was scared and exhausted. I closed my eyes and asked the ineffable for help. Immediately, I felt myself leave my body and float above the bed. Then out of the room and down the hall to the right. Then another right, another long, narrow, gray-walled hall where I had not been before. Then I took a third right turn, and in a short distance I came to a window into an office next to an open door where a rotund, feminine black man was sitting behind a desk working at a computer. He did not see me as I floated past him into the nursery room. The rectangular room was full of clear plastic incubators with new-born babies in them. 2 nurses were talking, and they did not notice me. As I knew I was floating over to Bodhi's incubator, out of the corner of my eye I saw some commotion the nurses did not see. Turning to see what it was, I saw my mother in a bright flowered dress, getting my attention by waving her arms in the air. Though my mother died years before Bodhi was born, she was there. I could see tiny glistening beads of sweat on her face. She communicated with me without sound. I'm watching over Bodhi. Get back in your body, dear. You need your rest. Instantaneously, I was back in my body in my hospital bed, where Bodhi's father was still looking at his phone. I said, I am okay, and he went home. The next morning when he came to visit, I told him what happened last night. He said, you must have seen it in a movie. After he went to see Bodhi and saw everything I described as I had described it, even though he knew I had not been there yet, he said nothing. Some people can only accept what they can explain. Other people can experience mysterious things that have no explanation. Like when Bodhi was 5, and a retreat guest in our home asked him, is there significance to you being named Bodhi? Bodhi stared at the man for a long silence. The man appeared to be in a state of grief, so I bent down and whispered to Bodhi, I think he needs to hear some words from you. Then Bodhi said, in a matter-of-fact tone, while still looking directly into the man's eyes, there's a bodhisattva in the world? The man's mouth fell open, and Bodhi lifted his hands and said, duh. The man laughed for the first time in days. Later, I asked Bodhi, what is a bodhisattva? He answered, they stay to help people. Where did you learn that? I read it at the Asian Art Museum. Joyous. He was content, secure, and happy from the very beginning. An older man friend referred to him as the baby who never cried. How simple it seems to give a child what they need, and yet many do not get the essentials. If I could make a wish for the world, it would be that everyone is cared for. A bodhisattva is a person who can ascend to nirvana, but delays doing so out of compassion to assist other suffering beings. I did not know Bodhi meant a person of great knowledge until years after he was born. When he was 5, he wanted to have a stand for the hikers who passed our house. He asked, what can I sell? I said, bottled water, lemonade, popcorn, cookies. He was not happy with those suggestions, so sarcastically I said, what about spiritual advice? He asked, what is that? I said, it is when people have questions about life. Like what? Like, what will make me happy? I don't know. If you think something will make you happy, try it. What else would they ask? How will I find love? Sometimes you find the girl and sometimes she finds you. One more question. So I thought I should ask a good one and said, what is the greatest strength a person can have? He thought for a minute. To just walk away from your enemies. I wondered, does my son carry my mother's wisdom? Everyone who knew my mother would describe her as a bodhisattva. Is my son carrying this lineage? Am I the conduit of my mother to my son? Are we all born enlightened but lose touch with what we are born knowing? I may never have answers to these or other most important questions. Where does life come from? How did we gain the ability to contemplate it? Is there a God, goddess, both, one, or many? Was it a singularity that began the universe, or multiverse, or something we cannot imagine that is the origin of life? Questions fill me, answers elude me. The ineffable surrounds us all. I am content with the mystery. Love may be the most powerful force in the universe. The love between mother and child is divine. I have no words to describe the depth of my gratitude that Bodhi was born.
Wow, that's I think I need my son Bodhi to come out here and give me a hug.
What?
I said, I think I need you to come out here and give me a hug. Can they see us? Oh, there we are.
What a nice story. What an honor to be included. Hi, everybody.
This is Bodhi, 32 years later. See how big I am? What a wonderful adventure it's been to be Bodhi's mother, and all I've learned from him, and all we get to do because he asked me to work with him and named us Mother Son Productions, and that's where these creativity show Sharon Art, the thing that helped me rise above all my difficulties, still does. Joyous creativity, problem solving, life enhancing, helping us and others creativity. So let's before we move on to the next story, let's hear whatever came in.
Yeah, and I can show the art if you'd like as well.
Yes, please.
So Joni B said, "Good afternoon. I love the colors on the shirt."
Thank you, Joni. Nice you're here. I always love it when you're here. And thanks. Yeah, I'm having fun taking it to the next level, making a composition instead of a pure design. So this is fun adventure for me. I like to keep growing and trying new things. So this piece of art you could name for us?
This is South African crowned cranes
Right.
nesting in trees.
There you go. So that, as anyone who has my book, Incandescence, it's got 68 pieces of art. In between every story is art, because creative reverie has been my safe place, and nature is my muse, and I love being a voice for nature. So let us move on to the next story.
All right,
Shall
I'll press
we?
play. Yep.
Okay.
Raining in the monastery. Outside the window, silver olive trees follow the roll of the Italian hills. An aura of salmon-pink clouds glows at the mountain's edge. Brilliant white snow dusts the highest peaks. Terracotta villas dot the landscape. I'm sitting on an enormous bed in this 1,000-year-old carved stone monastery as the golden dusk is fading while darkness wraps me in cool stars. No longer lured out the window, I am drawn into my own invisible interior. I've come here to write without. As I begin, a sense of awesome responsibility comes over me. The weight of wondering, what do I have to say, is so heavy. Sharing my life without sensationalizing my struggle is daunting. I feel angry at my imaginary audience wanting to hear the difficult things I've been through. Then I realize the act of sharing isn't for others, but an act of love toward myself. If I do not tell my story, how will I ever truly know myself? I feel sharing my truth can transform my pain into purpose, helping me by helping others. Giving is also receiving. As I consider writing my stories, I recall the day years ago when 9 different people told me I should teach dance. Now I understand. I do. Back then, just did I teach creative movement, saw something in me I did not yet see in myself. I kept resisting, saying, "But I've not studied dance. What do I know?" They said, "You know how to dance." I gave them the respect of accepting they knew something I did not, and it changed my life for the better. Teaching was a gift that expanded me beyond myself. Service is a sort of freedom. Every time I went to the psychiatric hospital exhausted and danced with suffering people, I was invigorated. When I reached deep inside to help another, I found rewarding purpose and peace there. Now I am no longer thinking about whether it is a curse or a blessing to have an interesting life full of challenges. It is not what I have been given that makes me who I am. It is what I do with what I've been given that defines me. It is not good or bad to have lived these things, but sharing it to know myself better and help others is good. It is my choice to transform my adversity into advantage. So as I begin writing, I recall a visit with a mentor and respected friend that ignited curiosity within me. When Walter Landor, the founder of an international design firm, was in the hospital, he asked to see my art. I brought my portfolio and showed him one piece at a time. As he looked at each one slowly and carefully, he said, "There is a book here. You should tell stories looking at your own art." So I'm including my art in this book in honor of him. Each piece tells a different silent story. His last words to me as I was leaving the hospital that evening were, "Don't put anything off." Walter had a stroke later that night and did not regain his ability to speak. He and I had spoken many times over the years about his life story book project. He interviewed many people to write his life story, but he could not decide on one, so he passed before it happened later that year. I heard him and I took the next step by consulting a Greek woman I met on a vision quest who said, "You have something to say." "What?" "You have learned forgiveness." "But I have so much more forgiveness to learn." "You have humility." "What about my doubts, fears, and vanity?" "You are human, and your willingness to feel and express your humanness is what makes you exceptional." "So being exceptionally human is what I have to share." "Yes," she answered, and something within me shifted. I felt intrigued by Walter's idea about looking at my art and telling stories from my life. I was inspired and began days later with my Greek friend, holding up one painting at a time. As I looked at each piece, as if for the first time, I wrote down the first feeling that came to me: compassion, jealousy, respect, fear, understanding, denial, hope, despair, joy, dread, harmony. This was fascinating, as I felt so many different things when I looked at my art, but everyone who shared what they felt while looking at my art said the same thing: peace. Now, in this old monastery that has become my friend's home in Italy, I am continuing my writing journey of self-discovery. Before this time, the very thing I had been ashamed of, how much I feel, how vulnerable I am, How sensitive I am turns out to be a great gift. The feeling of duty lifts and is replaced by a sense of adventure. Shall I meander a stream of consciousness path through my past, or go on an orderly chronological account of my history? Should I embellish for better stories, or stick to the truth, no matter how uninteresting? Can I leave out the parts that make me look bad and expand the parts that make me look good, and have it still be the truth? Is it for my own evolution, or more importantly, what it offers others? How do I know what is meaningful to others? The more I ask these questions, the more overwhelmed I feel. I realize I do not need answers. I need the faith that I have when I dance or paint to let it flow and just get out of the way of the creative expression. There is no right or wrong way. All that is necessary is to do it honestly, not embellish or leave out the unflattering. Simply tell the truth the best I can. Let it flow and be raw and instinctive, and as my mother called my artistic style, elegant primitivism. After writing this, I fall asleep, and I awake in the middle of the night to rain dripping onto my bed in this 1,000-year-old monastery. I go to the kitchen and get pots and cloth napkins to put in the bottom of each pot to keep the dripping sound from keeping me awake, and I go back to sleep soundly. In the morning, the first thing I see when my eyes open is 4 of the Portuguese workers and my friend laughing. They are looking at me curled around the 7 pots in my bed. One of the house workers asked, "Why didn't you wake me to help you?" I figured it out, so I did not need to. I noticed at breakfast for the first time since my arrival, the helpers smiled at me. After they left the dining room, I asked my friend, "They've been so distant until today. What changed?" She said, "They thought you were a princess, but I told them who you actually are." Until then, they had misunderstood me because I brought my most beautiful clothing, gifts from designer friends, and unique items I found in used stores. I delighted in mixing and matching each outfit, not wearing the same ensemble twice. Every meal was meticulously served to us by the staff at a precise time, so I came in a different outfit to honor each meal for the fun of it. After seeing me asleep curled around the 7 pots and my friend telling them I worked on the boats with the longshoremen, they saw who I really was the night it rained in the monastery.
Okay, wow. Well, that was a wonderful. I choose to acknowledge that I'm really enjoying hearing my stories. I've taken a break from them, as I've said before, since I wrote them and since I did these audio recordings. And so it's like hearing them almost brand new for the first time, to have this much time have passed. And it's a very enjoyable experience to be heard. Everybody needs to be heard to be happy, is my belief, my observation. And so to hear ourselves is like a whole nother layer of happiness. To speak and to be heard by ourselves is a gift we can give ourselves, and I hope that this encourages you to do that. And whether you share it with others or not, whether you publish it or not, but just to tell your story that no one else has but you, who you are, no one else can give to the world. So I hope, and that's why I'm doing these, the Creativity Show. Yes.
Yeah, so I've got some comments and then I can show the art as well.
Great.
So DB Catalyst on YouTube, very smart to say, "I need to just get out of the way." And then they went on to ask 2 questions. What is your favorite subject matter to paint? And what is your favorite subject matter to write about?
Well, everything in nature is interesting, beautiful, inspiring to me. And people are part of nature, though people and their creations can be very far from natural. And the further they are from their natural, authentic essence, the less interesting they are to me. So I'm fascinated, and I've painted and drawn everything from insects to outer space, flowers, birds, waterfalls in space, everything. And I've done 7 cities at sunset and a few people. My next body of work is going to have more humanity in it. I have gone to nature for comfort, solace, inspiration, design ideas. It's been my teacher. But now it's time to bring humanity more into my work. But my favorite to write about is anything and everything I'm feeling or observing. And I would say what it all, the umbrella it all would fit under would be consciousness. So that's a huge umbrella, but children have it. Well, animals have consciousness. It's different than human consciousness. But consciousness, us being able to consider ourselves and the cosmos, is just endlessly fascinating to me. So feelings, how we turn them to strength, wisdom.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Do you want me to share the piece of art that goes after that story?
Yes, please.
I think that is Mono Lake. And here it is. Oops, let me show it again. Mono Lake.
Yes, and that's a pastel. So I've worked in watercolor, pastel, acrylics, pen and ink, pencil, colored pencil, etchings, just any healthy materials and mediums. I'm likely to explore it. Etching on glass, carving into clay, painting on wood. So many different creative journeys, which is what I love. Being in the moment, increasing our happiness by stepping into the flow, and creativity is the way. So here's the back of this jacket. Let's show that. Can we see it well? Is that working?
Yeah, we can. You could lift it up but if it's not dry, I guess you wouldn't want to do that.
These acrylics, one of the other things I love about them is they dry really pretty fast. So how about maybe I could lift it this way?
Yeah, put the glass under it and lift it. Yeah. Nice.
How's that? All right, now I'm going to work on something on the front, because that feels done. Sometimes it's less than I think I'm going to do. Sometimes it's more than I think I'm going to do. But it feels done right now, so we're going to leave that alone and work on the front. Okay?
Great. Would you like me to start the next story?
Sure.
Longing for belonging. Christine had given me a shaman's book while I was in Italy at her old monastery turned into an olive orchard. I put the book under my pillow, as I often did, instead of reading it. Later, When we were both back in California, she invited me to the Shaman Author Workshop. We flew to New Mexico together. Our white airport van full of weary travelers pulled up to the hot springs outside of Santa Fe, New Mexico. Christine didn't feel well and went home, but her daughter Elena stayed for the workshop. We enjoyed each other and became instantly close. She was honest and light-hearted, which was a nice fit with my often heavy honesty. I was nervous my writing would not be as good as the others, and my nerves were made sharper by the fact that this was my first workshop. Wanting to get over my self-consciousness right away, I raised my hand at the first session after all the others willing to read their assignments. The shaman pointed to me and said, "Lady in the back, I don't know who you are, but I recognize souls." I stood up and looked around the room before speaking. "Thank you for letting me face my fear." Then I read my piece, inspired by my assigned writing partner's object as we were directed. He brought a polished obsidian stone with flecks of silver about which I wrote, "Light blackness, womb of worlds, before the Big Bang, a minuscule speck containing all possibilities, Goddess blinks everything we can imagine into existence." "Beautiful poem," the shaman teacher said before he paused and continued. "And it is true," he said, "but you need to get more primitive." "That's very interesting," I said. "My mother called me the elegant primitive." "That's probably true, but you still need to get more primitive," he snapped. After the session, when no one else could hear, the shaman told me I was a poet. I went outside to be a partner, found my people, but an even greater joy than my sense of belonging in school. Bodhi had written a poem for a class assignment, and it had stunned us. My writing partner shared the sweetness of the moment with me. When I went into the hotel lobby, Bodhi's poem I just mentioned was in a fax pinned on the board. It seemed like a perfect offering to the group as a token of appreciation for my feeling of welcome. After everyone else who wanted to read was done at the end of the day, I said, "I feel this is a gift for the group because of the magical timing of its appearance," and I read my 8-year-old son Bodhi's poem, "Space. It never starts, it never stops. It is full and empty at the same time. Space is like an adventure, as the world is to me. It is a big nothingness that grows every day. To me, the stars are the fruit, and space is the tree. I hope to one day reach the fruit and taste its glow with my eyes." The room sighed warmly. On my way back to my seat, I felt so comfortable, I said jokingly, "I think I will quit and just let him write." A woman said, "Be his teacher." "Yes, and he is my teacher," I replied. "You should not show appreciation to children. It makes them strange," said a man with a particularly long face. I felt compassion for that man, imagining the childhood he must have had. "I do not like people who do not shade their children from the direct sun," the shaman hissed. I wondered why he thought he knew anything about me as a mother. Why has this gift, a delicate flower, turned into a poisonous snake? I had surrendered my shields and stood bare before them, and those who did not like their own image in the reflective surface of my vulnerability shattered my mirror heart. Still water is easily disturbed. Moments before, I thought I had found some place I thought I could belong. Then in the next instant, the dancing rainbows on the surface of my bubble burst. I spent my evening in my room writing. Quaking leaf heart, blown apart by winds of insecurity. No matter, in the eyes of eternity, all troubles, tiny as a caterpillar's eyelash. Then I heard the people in the next room as if there were no walls. She should not have read her child's poem. Who does she think she is? I whispered to myself, why do I hear these words? What purpose other than to hurt me? I began to cry and briefly fell asleep. Then I awoke and wrote in the quiet dark. Fear takes sweetness hostage. Everyone who loses confidence in their worthiness fuels fire of disdain. Hold tight to convictions. Let the wind of gossip blow. Respect your integrity. Do not feed the desire to contain what cannot be contained. Fear fuels judgment. Love is the unshakable devotion to kindness. I thought those who had come to share with strangers would know themselves. They would be trustworthy and ready to be vulnerable. In the morning, I told my new friend Elena I did not feel safe with the others, and I was skipping the session to soak in the mineral waters nearby. There I found forgiveness and wrote, stand for something, become a target. Dare to trust, be struck down. Know infinite love, be hated. By those who do not love self, go to the well of forgiveness, drink waters of welcome, love with exiled heart. In the evening, my partner came to see me and asked me if I was okay. I told him I needed to be alone. I heard what they said about me through the walls last night. He looked sad. It isn't your responsibility. I only told you because I felt bad about abandoning you today. You do not need to do anything. Then we spoke about his mother-in-law's impending death, which made my difficulties seem small in comparison. He decided to tell the others I had overheard everything they had said about me. While I was eating in the dining room, the two from the next room approached me. As soon as the woman looked into my eyes, she burst into tears and started a fast-talking apology. At the same time, the man was saying, I am so sorry. Can you ever forgive me, please? I hugged her, saying, I already have. She pulled back and looked at me astonished. You have? Yes, I have. God, she continued while her tears increased, if I had to be such an asshole, I'm so glad it was to such a nice person. I was amused by the duality of it all, but held back a laugh. Feeling embarrassed about the public display, I stood and started walking, saying, let's talk out there, and they followed. It is huge for me. I really needed this lesson, the woman said. This is very important for me, too, I said. They both looked startled and confused. Why? The woman asked. Because of all the other strangers at other times in my life who did not know me and spoke cruel things about me. You are the first to apologize. She looked at me confused and asked, this has happened before? Yes. Because you're so beautiful, right? She asked. No, I answered, because I accept myself. My partner told me the shaman had asked where I was and then said to the room, she must be embarrassed she read her son's poem. When I heard this, I decided to rejoin the group the next day, but not to speak. That evening, the shaman was signing his books. I bought one and got at the end of the line. When I reached him, I said, before I ask for the gift of your signature, I would like to offer you a gift. I handed him my book of cranes. He took it in his hands, looked at the outside briefly, and said, a feather, and immediately began a conversation with someone else. He slipped the book out of its case, flipped through it quickly, and set it on the floor, saying, I'm not signing any more books tonight. I was the only one still waiting. I picked my book of cranes up off the floor and left. Jealousy is much more common than I ever wanted to admit. I have not wanted to speak of it for fear it will make me a target. Truly hard to admit was the shaman was jealous, but he was a human being, more like the rest of us than different. The second to last night, the shaman was signing posters on the floor. I waited in the back of the room until almost everyone had gone. When only his wife remained in front of him, I walked up, got down on the floor with him and said, "I'm going to try this again. I'm going to try to give you a gift." I handed him my book while no one else was watching. He accepted it and said, "It is beautiful." On the last day of the workshop, the shaman spoke for a long time about jealousy, saying, "I am jealous of poets. They can just tell the truth. I have to drive it, and as Robert Bly says about me, until I drive it around the bend." Then I recalled the shaman telling me I was a poet on the first day. As I stood the first day and thanked the group for helping me to face my fear, I thought I was speaking about my fear of sharing my writing. I realized then it was the much greater fear of being the object of jealousy and the terrible pain of separation envy puts between people. I have suffered so much anguish because others thought I had something they did not. I know I deserve love, and those who do not know this will hold it against those who do. The irony of it all is I learned to love myself out of necessity. I had so little else growing up. It was born out of disadvantage rather than the privilege others project onto me. The last day during the shaman's long lecture, he said, "If you are jealous of someone, give them a gift to transform your jealousy." My new friend Elena looked at me from across the room and mouthed the words, "You have to get out of here." The moment the lecture was over, I bolted toward the door. Before I could get through it, a woman jumped in front of me. "You are the most beautiful woman I've seen in—" She paused. I wanted to run away, and seeing my discomfort, she finally continued, "In a really long time." I suggested to Elena we go to the dining room before the others. As we sat there, 5 women who had not spoken to me the whole retreat came over and told me I was pretty. Another said, "Are you a yoga master? I mean, your body. You must be a dancer. Do you teach yoga? You must, because your body, I mean, the way you move. You are a dancer, right? Do you teach dance? Are you a yogi?" She kept talking without giving me an opportunity to answer, which worked out considering I did not know what to say. Elena and I whispered after each left our table, "Boy, it is getting really high. It is going to hurt when they knock me off the pedestal they're putting me on." The man with the particularly long face approached me and said, "You are a person of enormous grace." Feeling this was a genuine compliment and a gift for me rather than for themselves like the others felt, I thanked him. After eating, the group walked up the dirt road and got in the white van to go to the airport. Poem, pure, like a flower, turned into snake, strikes me. Venom transforms hurt into sweet forgiveness. When we got back to California, Christine reminded me of the dream I told her while I was visiting her in Italy. The night I slept with the shaman's book under my pillow, I dreamt it was Halloween, but I did not want to dress up. I just wanted to be myself. I went down to the water, and there were 2 native men. One was feminine and comfortable with me, and the other was masculine and threatened by me. An earthquake came, and I suggested we go out into the water to get away from the rocks at the shore and float through the quake. After the shaking passed, we all walked up the dirt road, got in a white way. I went to the workshop hopeful and longing for belonging. I returned and shared my experience with the family therapist who had known me for 15 years. I asked him, "Is it strange I am feeling sad about women telling me I'm pretty? Do you understand why?" He answered, "I think I do. It is that you have worked your whole life on polishing an inner jewel that they don't even see." At that moment, my longing for belonging faded into an appreciation of being seen.
Wow. That story was very had some difficult feelings for me, and what I realized hearing it is very profound. As those of you who have my book or have been here for the other stories being read, you know that I've endured some really difficult stuff, being set up to be raped when I was 16, being set up by my own father, having him later point a gun at my head and threaten to shoot me and two friends I was with, getting deported from Canada, getting arrested for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. So, ending up with my drug addict sister's children, lots of difficult stuff. And this story, I would, being honest, say is one of, if not the most difficult story in my life to share. It's one of, because it's a taboo to talk about jealousy. But in this sexist world, women too smart, too wise to take their hurt and frustration at being treated unfairly, not as equals, out on men who often have the money, power, laws, guns, might. Most women too good to take it out on children. So who's left is other women. And I have gotten a lot of jealous, javelins of jealousy, I call them, because I do love myself. And partly I love myself because I don't do that. I don't participate in gossip, maligning other women. I don't need to make any comments about their clothes or hairstyle or anything superficial. Unless a person is dangerous, I don't need to say anything. So that's part of the reason I like myself, and I know, I love myself because my mother taught me how, and a lot of people didn't have that, so I forgive them. But we can't fix what we can't admit is broken. So we need to be able to talk about women competing with one another. We need to shore each other up. That's why I shared this story. Yes, I heard the Tibetan bell.
On YouTube, MM Makers said, "Have you ever thought of hosting your own writing retreat? You are such a great teacher. I am sure many would love to learn writing from you."
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'd love to help. And equal, different, but equal is the gratification, the loving joy, fulfillment I get from helping other people get better connected to their imaginations, their confidence to express it creatively, and their courage to share it with others. And so I was asked to teach in my 20s, and I've been doing it ever since. I wrote a curriculum back then and took it to a different school every week and taught every grade level from kindergarten through, well, I guess first grade through university level, drug rehab, juvenile delinquent homes, crisis shelters, mental health facilities. And since I've been back here, I've worked with the University for Seniors and the Women's Group, Club, and I was asked by a judge to work with mental health and drug rehabilitation clients and their facilitators, judges and lawyers and probation officers and such. So I love helping other people connect with their joyous, healing, life-enhancing creativity. So as far as writing, I also got a grant to share my how to market your own book. So those videos are out there on the Creativity Show. You can find those. And I would love to be in a writers group and lead or just be part of a writers group. So thank you. I would love to do that. And life is unfolding, and maybe that's part of what's next. All right, young man.
Yep. You covered it, I think. I don't think. Oh, Michael Barcelo said, sorry, was late.
All good. I'm glad you're here. Thanks. And I do want to say that I do creativity coaching for groups and individuals. And so reach out if it's something you'd like. Find what you're passionate about, what inspires you, all the way to I helped a woman who retired from her profession find the next thing she wanted to do by listening and asking her questions, and writing poetry for people that have passed to comfort those who remain. And I was listening to her, and I heard her words, and I said, what, honor and comfort is words you've used. And so she named her business that, and Bodhi helped her make a website to market it. So I love to help people find their inspiration and the confidence to express it and share it. So I do that, and reach out if you'd like that. And thanks so much. Thank you for being here. Is there anything else?
If you want me to show the 4 warblers.
Yes, please do that. And I will actually
All right, here's Morning Warbler and Wild Lupine. Here's Black Burnian Warbler and Rose Mallow. Here's Northern Parula Warbler and Baby Snapdragon. And here's Wilson's Warbler and Zinnia. And those are the 4 that come after that story in the book. And then here's the Tennessee Warbler and Ivy Leaf Morning Glory that your stencil designs are based on today.
Right, so
step over in front of the table so we can see better.
Okay.
Nice.
And
I'll come out and get a close-up.
Okay, it's not necessarily done. I like to take it slow. I like to enjoy creating, like a delicious gourmet meal. I savor every bite. So
yeah, show whatever you want to show.
There's that,
okay.
And that, and that.
Nice. Let me get in closer on that for the people here. Nice. Turn your back towards me a little bit more.
Did that work?
One sec. Nice.
Okay. So that's what I'm going to keep doing, is going from functional to fancy. But I'm going to now be doing more composition instead of just stencil design. And we're going to keep sharing the stories till the book is complete. And then there'll be whatever's next. There's always more. I have an enormous amount of poetry. I have a big collection of what I call one-liners. And I got a grant to write another book, so we'll see what I share when the book is done. But meanwhile, this is what we made today. Okay?
Great. Good job. Woohoo!
Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it, and hope it inspires you to enjoy your imagination, express your creativity, and share it with us. The world is enriched by any one of us who share our essence, our individuality, and the world needs us to use our creativity to collaborate with each other to address the substantial issues we've created by not looking far enough ahead or thinking of the big picture enough. Humanity has gotten myopic with fear. It can happen to anybody, including me. And so we need to get into expansive love and creatively collaborate and make this this living in harmony with each other in the world. All right.
Fantastic. Let me make sure I got everybody. Okay. One second. I lost track of where YouTube is. Okay. Yep. Great. You got it all. Wonderful.
Thank you for being here, and see you Monday at noon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Bodhi.
Yep.